Ami.
Yes.
Yes, it is January 8th.
It is January, and we are talking about Paris. And this week we in Paris are remembering it's the first anniversary basically of these attacks that happened in the Charlie Hebdo newspaper and the Hyper Kasher Jewish supermarket. Unfortunately, also yesterday, someone tried to go into a police station in Paris and with a meat cleaver, and a fake suicide vest, and tried to attack people. There was a paper found on his body where he was pledging allegiance to ISIS and called for revenge on the French for their attacks in Syria. He was named as Salah Ali, born in Morocco, a convicted thief. So that kind of marred, of course, the events that are already trying to take place. These memorials
the events, and it's what is so odd. And I'm glad we have everybody in studio. What's so odd about this that he seems to have printed out an ISIS flag that was found on his body. Mm-hmm. And I mean, things like that, and Paula, just because you're still with us in studio, destabilize Europe more in its psyche than anything else, do they?
Certainly, and I think what we see happening in Europe is the continuous story of the influx of the refugees. We've had these reports of women saying that they were sexually attacked and harassed by refugees. I think Europe is really continuing with that debate of how to move forward, what to do, how real is the threat of terrorism, and whether or not it's emanating from the refugees that are coming in.
That are coming in, and of course, it'll put it on bigger alert, so to speak. But it is very important to remind people that it is almost a year to the attacks of Charlie Hebdo and the Hyper Kasher in Paris, and it will be marked. Actually, the Hyper Kasher in Paris was hit. It will be Sunday that marks a year to that. We cannot separate also the element of what many people said, especially where we're sitting, of anti-Semitism, so to speak, that was part of that attack. But, French Jews have remained in Paris, many of them. And I want us to go now to Paris itself, where we're joined on the phone by Rabbi Tom Cohen, who's joining us on the phone from Paris. And Rabbi Cohen, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. Good morning. A year on, French Jews, because all of these discussions that we had last year, especially right after the Charlie Hebdo, French Jews in France feeling safer?
Today, I guess, yes, we could say we're feeling safer than we were a year later. We're still very nervous, but I think a lot like the rest of the French population, in that we're not used to, as perhaps in Israel, having soldiers on the streets and the beefed up police presence everywhere. Perhaps the Jewish community, though, who has been the direct beneficiary of this, with soldiers in front of our synagogues, in front of our institutions, that's reassured us that as opposed to what many people say of this might be the 30s, where it's not the soldiers trying to round up the Jews, the soldiers are there to protect us.
To protect you. But again, sadly, it seems to be becoming something of a fait accompli around the world when it comes, though, to the reaction towards, terrorism or the fear and threat of terrorism. Are the divisions between Muslims and Jews in France worse?
I think they're not necessarily worse. They're not better. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes where at least Jewish leaders and Muslim leaders are trying to address this. But I think for the general population at this point, there's just remains a suspicion of everybody of we're not used to dealing with the idea of sudden terrorism on nearly every few months basis.
On every few months basis. And let's hope that's not going to be the case for 2016. I want to thank you, Rabbi Cohen, for joining us this morning. Ami, speaking of Muslims and Jews. Speaking
of anti-Semitism, this is apparently still very much alive in Europe. And here we have a story coming from the Telegraph that's of an event in London yesterday, in Tottenham, the north of London, where neo-Nazis yelled at Jews, "Hitler is on the way," and "Heil Hitler," before they actually pelted them. These Jewish shoppers, who were apparently religious people that were wearing, easily recognizable attire of Jewish people, pelted them with gas canisters, laugh gas canisters, nitrous oxide gas canisters. That's what they had. I guess they got them at some, outside some kind of dentist office, whatever. And they were. It was all seen by this neighborhood watch called Shomrim. That's also, a point that I want to say, that they actually have, a community has to have a watch called Shomrim, which translates it from Hebrew as guards. That this is what's needed in London today, against these kinds of attacks.
Sad and terrifying.
Yes.
Yes.
On to Israel here. We talked a lot about this this past week where there was a decision by the Israeli Education Ministry to ban a book by an author called Dorit Rabinian and her book called Borderline, which depicts a romance between a love story between a Jew and an Arab. A lot of opinions, a lot of stuff was thrown around, but yesterday, Time Out Israel, which is a branch of the very big media outlet, Time Out, put up this video of Jews and Arabs kissing each other. Some of them never met before. Some of them are gay. Some of them are lesbian. Some of them are whatever. We have a clip that's going viral and got a lot of comments on it.
Let's take a look at the clip first. I think it's the first time in the last 25 minutes that everybody around this table has a smile on their face.
Yeah,
no,
it's a great clip.
Seriously, and Ali, how do you think this will be accepted? I'm going to state my opinion. I love this. I think it's very powerful. I think it's incredibly courageous.
It is very powerful. It is courageous, but it is very controversial when it comes to the Arab world. The idea of people kissing publicly, this is
and
one
the Jewish
thing.
World as well.
Plus Jews and Arabs. Plus they are not all straight, as Ami just said. So we have all the points that make it a very controversial video in the Arab world. I must admit that unfortunately most of the comments, the reactions in the Arab media, mainly in the social media, is not supporting this campaign.
Nor have they done so very much. Nor have they done so very much in some of the Israeli parts as well. That came
that's
down.
what's sad. I mean, I like this video. I love it. I think it's a great idea, but it also makes me sad because it's kind of sad that this in Israel today is considered so taboo. So avant-garde. That's what shows a lot about Israeli society, that this is amazing that the two couples that love each other, that are just different ethnicities, that's really avant-garde and outrageous.
And I mean, we are going to cover this in depth come Monday with the makers of this campaign at Time Out taking quite a chance. I'm assuming Paula, because she represents a foreign network in Israel, is going to cover this as well.
We haven't actually covered it yet. I saw the video first last night, and I was watching to see which international networks were picking up on it. We haven't. So it'll be interesting to see
the reactions.
It's important to mention, by the way, that first of all, it was picked up by The Guardian, Washington Post, and others. But a few hours after it was on air, Facebook took it down. Apparently, there was a barrage of complaints. And Facebook, pretty much automatically takes down videos when it reaches a certain amount of complaints.
So it automatically comes down.
Not really checking, it's just an automated machine.
Right.
So it was taken down. But apparently it was brought up a few hours back.
After the Facebook Zuckerberg committee delved into it and figured out that this is actually something that, listen, it's a powerful campaign. We're going to take a look at it Monday. And you know what? Maybe we need more campaigns as such. I want to thank you all for being with me this morning.